Hey guys, what's up? It's Eric with Advanced Level Automotive, coming back to you with another video. Today I got this 2005 Ford Taurus. It's raining outside, AC is not working in this car, got the windows rolled up so it's kind of hot in here. Let me show you what's going on. So initially when I first started up the car, first thing I noticed was that all the lights are on. If you look, the battery light's on, the traction control light is on, the brake light, check engine, ABS light, and if you'll notice here where it says miles and it's got the vehicle mileage, it's got a bunch of dashes going across here. The engine is running right now, and if you look at the tachometer, it's sitting at 0 RPM. So that's an indication that we probably have a computer communication problem. Let me show you a quick funny thing though. So when I put this thing in reverse, again, it is running. Check it out. Mostly all the lights go away except for the check engine light, and the mileage pops back up. So I'm gonna put it back in park, and the lights come back on, as you can see, and we lose the mileage here. Show you that again. Reverse, and then park. So I think that's pretty interesting. I don't know if that has to do with maybe a ground, and whenever we're putting it into gear, the motor is moving, causing it to maybe pull on the ground wire or something like that. That may have something to do with it, I'm not sure, but I just thought that was something funny. Anyway, this vehicle just came from another shop. The issue that the customer was having, of course, is that all these lights are coming on and the transmission is shifting funny, and that also he recently had his AC compressor replaced, and of course the AC compressor is not coming on, so the air is not coming out cool. And of course, you know, we're here in Houston, Texas, where it's just humid and it's hot, so you know, you got to have the AC working. So anyways, those are the symptoms that he's having. He went to a transmission shop because he thought his transmission was giving out, and the transmission shop said that they didn't think it was a mechanical problem with the transmission. More than likely it had to be an electrical problem, so that's why it's here today. Anyways, this isn't the first time that I've seen this problem. I've seen it multiple times on these Ford Tauruses. Normally it's a computer ground issue, so I'm hoping that this video, you know, it might be quick, but hopefully there's some information that you can gather here. So that's the first thing I want to go ahead and try to do. Let's check the grounds. All right guys, so we're up under the hood here. All right guys, so we're under the hood over here. I've already gone ahead and removed the air box out of the way, just so we can get a better view of any of the grounds that are down here. So a couple of the first ones that I see is this battery ground to the body here. The cable goes straight to the battery right here. Just kind of checking for any loose connection or anything here. Also, you want to check this one right here, which runs to the transmission bell housing right here. I don't see any looseness in this one. There's also this one right here. You want to check it, make sure it's nice and tight. But even though it may look good, what we need to do is go ahead and take this off, clean it up, put it back together, and then see if that fixes our problem. So we're going to go ahead and just clean up these grounds and get this put back together. All right guys, so we went ahead and cleaned up the grounds, at least the ones that were visible to us, but it's still not working. The vehicle is running right now, so you can see the tachometer is still sitting at 0, and the odometer here has just got dashes going all the way across, and we still have all these lights on. So yeah, I guess a couple things that are coming to mind. Number one is whether or not, you know, there's still other grounds that we need to check, and that's a big possibility. That's something that we do need to go over. But I guess another thing that is kind of in the back of my mind is whether or not this may be related to the fact that whenever we go into gear, it seems like we regain communication. So if I put it into gear, you see we get communication. If I put it back in park, we lose communication. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but that's just something that I have in the back of my mind. All right guys, so I got my scan tool hooked up here. Nothing real fancy, just my little old school Solus Pro. But I want to show you something real quick. So if you look right now, the car is running. Again, our tachometer is not working, and we have a bunch of dashes on the odometer. I'm going to try to communicate just by checking codes in the memory, and wait for it. It says no communication. But check this out. When we put it in gear, let's put it in reverse. You see how the tachometer came back on, and we don't have the dashes. We actually have numbers on the odometer. Now I'm going to hit Y and Y again, and let's see if it communicates. And here we are. So we've got codes in the memory here in the engine computer, First one we're showing here is a P0316 engine misfire detected on startup. We have two CAT codes, P0420 and a P0430, and fuel level sensor low inputs, gear 1 and gear 2 incorrect ratios, and we have shift solenoid faults. So shift solenoid A, P0750, and a P0753 is also for shift solenoid A. Okay, I think the codes that are really sticking out to me are going to be these two shift solenoid codes. I think this is probably where we need to be headed in this direction, is trying to figure out if it is possible that we have a problem with the shift solenoid, and whenever the computer is engaging or releasing that solenoid, it could be shorting out. So maybe it's shorting out and taking out the computer communication, because again, it seems like every time we're in gear we have communication, but when I put it in park it starts to lose communication. So I think that might be the next thing we might want to do. So let's go pull up a wiring diagram. Alright guys, we're back here at the computer. Got the wiring diagram pulled up. Before I do that, I just want to express to you how freaking hot it is today. I have my little thermometer up here, and that is degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, it's freaking hot. Anyway, let me show you here. Got the wiring diagram pulled up. If you look down here in this area, we have the transmission solenoids, and the one we want to concentrate on, because the code that we have is solenoid A. So if you look here, we got two wires. It's a pretty straightforward design, a two-wire solenoid. So if we look at this diagram, we should be able to determine whether or not it's power side switched or if it's ground side switched. So let's follow up this red wire right here, and if you look, that red wire is a power supply coming straight from a fuse 28. It's a 15 amp fuse. So what that would mean is that the other wire, which is this yellow wire here, is going to the engine computer. This indicates that this system, or this solenoid, is a ground side switch solenoid. So I was kind of hoping it was the other way around. Maybe it was a power side switched, and maybe the solenoid was shorted, and when the computer's sending out the power to activate the solenoid, you know, maybe the solenoid shorted and taking out the computer. But this is a ground side switched circuit. So this solenoid always has a constant power feed, and that constant power feed is sent to the computer here, and when the computer wants to activate the solenoid, it grounds this circuit. So I mean, it is possible still that this solenoid could be shorted, causing too much current flow, though we would be worried about maybe a burnt fuse on the circuit. So I guess what we could do is go to the vehicle, find the connector, and see if we could locate these two wires. Alright guys, so we're back under the hood. Let me show you where the connector is located. I already have it disconnected, but it's right up here on top of the transmission. Went ahead and disconnected, and I took the liberty of peeling back this wire loom right here so I can expose the wires and find the wires for solenoid A. But I think what I want to try to do first is I want to leave this unplugged, and I want to try to put the vehicle in gear and see if the computer loses communication. Alright, so we're back inside the car. I'm going to go ahead and start it. Shut the door here. Got a message here that says check transmission. But so far you can see the tachometer is working. Let's go ahead and stick this thing in gear. And check that out. I put this thing in gear, and we are not losing communication. In park, everything seems to be working here. Put it in gear. Everything's still working. Alright guys, so I got my piercing tool on the red wire, which is the power feed for the solenoid A. I have my lab scope just set up on a graphing meter here. Hopefully you can see it. I'm going to go ahead and turn the key on. Get inside the vehicle. And let's see if we have any change in voltage here. Hopefully you can see that through the window there. I'm going to go ahead and put the key in. That ignition on, and hopefully you saw that rise in voltage. If you look, we're at 11.7. I'm gonna go ahead and start the vehicle up. And we got system voltage there. So vehicle is running right now. Let's take a look at the dash. Looks like the RPM or the tachometer is working. Let me go ahead and shut the door. Actually, it's kind of bouncing around there. So, let's wait to see if this thing loses communication. So, oh, there we go. It's dropping out. Looks kind of intermittent right now. All right, guys, so we have completely lost communication. You can see the tachometer's down, and well, it came back up. Well, there it goes. Anyways, during that time, I see no change in the voltage supply for the solenoid A in the transmission. I think what I want to do next is just check the other side, the switching side to the computer. All right, guys, so now I'm on the orange and yellow wire, which is the control side for the solenoid A. Let's go ahead and check it out. So let me go ahead and put the key in. Key is on. As you can see, we have some activity there. I'm going to go ahead and start the vehicle. The vehicle is running. And at the moment, it looks like we have no communication. I'm going to go ahead and shut the door. Well, I don't know what shutting the door did there for a second, but it looked like it made that jump up a little bit. So right now we have no communication. You can see we got system voltage on that control circuit wire. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in gear. We're in reverse now. There's no change. Let me put it in drive. And there's no change. Let me get the scan tool hooked up again and then see if we can manually command the solenoid to come on. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and turn the solenoid on. Just watch it over here and I'll tell you when I'm turning it on. I just hit the button to turn it on. That solenoid should be activated. I don't see any change. I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to turn it back on. Back off. And I don't see any change. So, alright guys, so before I get ahead of myself here, which is something I tend to do a lot, I think I just kind of want to stop and think things over. Probably what we should do is go back and probably check for any other computer grounds or grounds that are involving the engine computer, so that we can check those before we go down a path that really takes us nowhere. So anyways, we have the wiring diagram pulled up over here. The computer's over on this side right here. We're just going to look for any associated grounds. There's two grounds right here, that ground, that ground. There's a G103 and a G102. So what I need to do is find an illustration of where these grounds are located, G103 and G102. Right, so I have my ground location index over here, G102. This is a 2-valve, rear right-hand engine compartment. And we get this picture right here. And it looks like right here, G102 and G103. If you look, this is a picture of the engine, the front of the engine, and this is the back side of the engine. Looks like there's a wiring harness that goes across the back here. I believe that might be for the engine computer. Yeah, powertrain control module, that's the connector. Somewhere right here, there's a couple grounds. So let's go ahead and check these grounds. All right guys, so we're back under the hood, and I have located the grounds. If you look back here on the firewall, try to get my light in there, right here, see that bolt right there? That bolt is actually the ground location for these computer grounds right here. And if you look over here to the side, you'll see the engine computer. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that bolt off, clean the ground up, and we'll see what happens. All right, so I removed the bolt on that ground. If you look, well, I just dropped the bolt, but just wanted to show you guys that the wire itself looks like it's intact. If I tug on it, it doesn't look like it's coming apart. But let me show you that bolt. This is always a treat when the bolt that you dropped actually hits the ground. And it's right here behind the tire. So we got lucky Anyway, what I wanted to show you about this bolt is that it's pretty rusted. It's got some oxidation going on there. I'm just going to give this a good little brushing with the wire brush. Alright, so after hitting this thing with the wire brush, the bolt's nice and shiny. I'm going to go ahead and reinstall it. Alright guys, so we got our ground freshly cleaned up and bolted down nice and tight. So we're going to go ahead and start the vehicle up. Alright, key is on. Let's go ahead and start this thing up. Shut the door. And it looks like we have communication. Let me go ahead and try to switch it through the gears. It's reverse, neutral, drive, neutral, reverse. Let's go back into park. Alright guys, so I've had this thing running for a few minutes now and it has not acted up. Everything seems to be working good. I think I need to go ahead and take this vehicle for a test drive. The AC is still not cooling, which is another concern that the customer had. I guess I was hoping that it may have been related to this problem, but that might be a separate issue. I'll have to check that out too, but let's go ahead and take this thing for a test drive. Alright guys, so I went on another test drive, and lo and behold, it's still doing the same thing. Instrument cluster keeps cutting out, computer stops communicating. Essentially, we're still having the same problem.
6.5 hours later.
We did find out where the problem was, and it had nothing to do with the ground. Actually, the problem is in this harness. I didn't notice before, but if you look at this line, the AC line, if I move it over, I don't know if you can see all that marking right there on the AC line. Well, it turns out this wiring harness that goes to the computer is actually rubbing into that line. And if I take a mirror, let me show you. We have some exposed wires on the bottom side of this wiring harness. I'll try to zoom in here. Anyways, it might be difficult to see, but there's actually a couple wires there that are bare. And so, just to verify what we found, I just had my brother over here looking inside the vehicle and me pushing down on the harness, and essentially what he's seeing is that every time I push down on the harness, the instrument cluster goes out, and when I lift up on the harness, everything starts communicating again. So that's definitely going to be our problem. We're going to need to insulate these wires and tape this harness back up, and we're going to need to suspend it, maybe with some zip ties so that it's not laying on this line right here. Let me go ahead and do that. So now I got the wiring harness repaired and taped up. I went ahead and used a zip tie, just kind of tied it around this strut mount here, or the torque strut mount, just to pull this harness up and away from the AC line so it's not touching. I think there may have been some type of bracket here that kind of held this up. I'm not really sure, but either way, it's gone. So this harness is just kind of laying there. So just a couple zip ties used to pull this harness up and away so that we have no more rubbing over here. Anyways, we're gonna go ahead and take it for the last test drive. Hopefully this takes care of the issue. All right guys, so I am on my final drive with this vehicle, and so far so good. Everything's staying communicating. Everything seems to be working great. I haven't lost any communication with the scan tool down here. The instrument cluster is staying working. The tachometer's working. We have the mileage on the odometer. We don't have those dashes like we did before. The transmission shifting just fine. AC is blowing nice and cold. I do want to add that the AC was actually a combination of two different things. Number one, it was low on Freon. Like, it hardly had any Freon in there because of that low side valve. But on top of that, whenever the PCM would stop communicating and we would get all that mess of lights on the instrument cluster, during that time the computer could not command the AC clutch to come on. So there actually was two different things, because even after I charged the AC with refrigerant, you know, after I changed the Schrader valve, there would still be times where the compressor would not come on, and that happened to correlate with whenever we would lose communication with the instrument cluster or with the PCM. Anyways guys, I hope this video helps you out. I know I kind of jumped around a little bit because at first I thought it was an issue with the grounds, and then I started chasing a problem with the transmission solenoid, which I thought there was a problem there, but it turns out I was kind of going down the wrong path. I decided to turn back to checking the other grounds, and when I went into that area on the right side of the engine bay where I found that computer ground to the body, you know, I thought we had a problem there because when I would mess with the wiring in that area, you know, we would get intermittent communication here. So anyways, it turned out not to be a ground issue. It turned out to be some wires in the harness shorting out on the AC line. So, you know, that's just how it goes. Sometimes it takes you a little bit longer to figure out what's going on. You know, sometimes you have good days, sometimes you have bad days. Today, I don't know if it's the heat outside or it's just been a long day, man, but I'm just glad I got this thing figured out and I got it fixed. Anyways, I hope you guys learned something from the video. I hope the material helped you out in some way, shape, or form. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. If you enjoy the channel, please subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Thanks.